Microsoft and Xbox are going to quote unquote blow your mind with a new game in development for the Xbox Series consoles. This article speculates as to what studio is making that game. IO Interactive is working on a dragon fantasy game, and the speculation is that that is the game that will blow your mind. Now, there are many other games in development, so they're just guessing here in this article. But every time I hear a dragon fantasy game, I think of that awful PS3 game, Lair, with the 6-axis motion control. So hopefully it's going to be much better than that if that is the game, and I'm sure it will be. But the idea that they're going to blow your mind is something that I think you can get excited about, and hopefully it does just that. We're talking about resolution again in 2021. Believe it or not, resolution is something still on people's minds, especially console gamers. Now, most people aren't as informed when it comes to purchasing video games and consoles as to the minutia of all these details. I mean, it's not like people go into a store and Richard Ledbetter is sitting on their shoulder whispering, "The square root of pi is 1800p, buddy." Most people just look at video games. They look at the advertisement on television, or they look at videos on YouTube, and they look at the graphics on the screen. They look at what's happening, and they see how Ratchet and Clank looks like something that they've never seen before, the gameplay, the animation, the graphical effects. So again, this is not going to matter to a large percentage of people who buy consoles and buy video games. Most people aren't on social media in these small, insular groups of people that podcast with the same people every week, that talk to the same people over and over again. They have this group mentality think. Most people are not that when it comes to gaming. So this idea that at times in 4K 30 mode or the performance mode gives you 60 frames per second, but at times it can go as high as 4K and at times it can go as low as 1080p. You have the peanut gallery focusing on the low end 1080p as if the game is going to run at 1080p all of the time, while ignoring the fact that it scales resolution for 60 frames per second, which, by the way, a lot of games coming out on the Xbox Series consoles are probably going to do that. And I'm talking about first-party titles as well. So hold off on your criticism because, of course, you're going to look like a hypocrite. So most people aren't interested in that. Most people don't care about that. The game is going to be phenomenal. It's going to sell incredibly well. It's an exciting exclusive game from first party that pushes the PlayStation 5. That is bread and butter in the industry. That's bread and butter when you buy a new console. It's never going to change. You can't argue against it. And resolution is not that important anymore. It's not like it's 2012. The addition of post-processing effects, all the things that these new consoles do to help games look better, all of the new graphical effects, the higher RAM count, higher polygon models, all of that stuff I will take every day over resolution because, again, I'm playing Rise here. It's no coincidence that I chose Rise for this video. This game came out 8 years ago, 900p. What games now look better than this game? And I'm not talking about gameplay. I'm just talking about graphically. This game still holds up. And by the way, you can play this on the Series console, and they have HDR implemented. Auto HDR for this game makes it look even better. But that's my point. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. The game's going to be phenomenal. And I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed by the fact that they have a choice of running it at 60 frames per second with scaling resolution or 4K 30. It's not like it's Call of Duty and it needs to be 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. It's not Fortnite. It's not Apex Legends. It's Ratchet and Clank, a character-driven action platformer game. 4K, all the graphical bells and whistles, and 30 frames per second is going to be incredible. So not a big deal there. One more thing I'd like to point out is that most of the games that are in Game Pass or coming to Game Pass aren't native 4K or even 1440p at all. And yet those are exciting additions to Game Pass for gamers. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be, they should be. But just as a point of reference, if resolution on a brand new game pushing the medium forward in this generation, like Ratchet and Clank is, graphically with all of the effects and the animation, if that is something that you're downplaying because at some points during the game, if you choose one mode to give you 60 frames per second, at one point during the game, the resolution may drop to 1080p before it's upscaled, then how are you excited about Final Fantasy X and X-2 in Game Pass? It doesn't make sense because resolution is not a video game. Graphics, gameplay, everything comes together to make a great experience on console. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Thank you.